Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via Livestream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening. Welcome to Leadership Live at 8:05. This is your host, Andrew Frazier. Excited to be back here another Tuesday evening to talk small business. As you know, the Leadership Live is a show where we bring in each week a special guest, expert, entrepreneur, business owner, and we really just talk about key things that can help you as an entrepreneur or business owner be more successful at what you do. What we found is really the key to success in business is about leadership. You have to be the leadership of your organization. So that's why we do Leadership Live. So we can talk about ways you can develop your leadership skills and become the best leader possible. This week, very excited. We have a great topic and a great guest. This week's topic is called A Space of Your Own. And our guest is Citi Medina. He's the founder of Equal Space, but he also has his own firm that he started before Equal Space, and we'll let him talk to you more about it. But, you know, it's a creative firm where he does a lot of creative and marketing and other key things for businesses around the New York Metro and across the country. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Medina to join us on the script. Hey, Medina, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Andrew. I'm good. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. I know your schedule is usually busy, and you know your evenings are usually yours. Sometimes they might be your businesses as a business owner, but you know, taking the time to hang out here and just talk small business and share some of your wisdom and expertise with everybody.
I mean, it's always a good time to chop it up with you, Andrew. So I'm glad, and for those tuning in, I'm so happy to be with you guys. So this is a good upturn in the Entrepreneur Day schedule, right? Is to be able to sit here and talk to you about something we're both passionate about.
Yes, and you know you're doing great things. We've known each other for many years. You know, maybe 10 or close to 10. Doing business in Essex County, Newark area. Continue to see your business grow. You know, creating more space, more opportunities for your business and other business owners. So definitely great to have you here. I know you pretty well, but I'll probably learn some stuff when you know this evening as well. But some of the audience may not know you as well. So you want to take a few minutes and just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about where you're from, how you got to where you are.
That's a fun topic for me. So for everyone, hello, my name is Medina. As Andrew was saying previously, I'm originally from Brooklyn. I tell everybody born in Brooklyn, made in Newark. And my first agency, which is Medina Citi, is a creative strategies agency. And we do everything from marketing, design to offering strategic value and insights for foundations, politicos, and national brands. And that work is rewarding and beautiful. And I've been doing it for many years at this point. And it brought me actually here to Newark, New Jersey, in doing digital strategy and content creation. I fell in love with the city of Newark and based my agency here, moved myself from Brooklyn to Newark. I've been a proud Newark resident for the last 10 plus years. And I've been able to dig in and create these wonderful initiatives inside of the city that have helped it move forward and create what I find is equitable access to opportunities for small businesses that are led by women, by multicultural founders, immigrant founders of small businesses and ventures. In doing that work and doing strategic value work and often consulting with large firms, I discovered that there were a wealth of us who were not being invested in purely based on bias, institutional obstruction and lack of access to financial tools and investment. And it really developed into my second company. Now, had you asked me if I was going to, if I was going to create one company, yet alone two, I would have laughed. But now here I am 6 years into being the co-founder of Equal Space, which is a share space and incubator for people of color, women ventures, and LGBTQ enterprises. And it is now, as Andrew was saying, because we never rest, we're now 3 floors, over 19,000 square feet, and one of the largest LGBT Black, Brown owned share spaces in the state. That's something I'm very proud of, as we are independently funded. We, are self-started, self-made, and quite honestly, it's an amazing part of my purpose work to see these startups, small business owners working inside of our space. We have a co-working service amenities listing, so you can have a suite, a desk, you can come and use the conference room, our podcast studios, our photography studio. We have an event space, which Andrew and I have had the fortune of collaborating over many power breakfasts, and we really create equity and brave space for our communities to grow and flourish and have access and resources. And that's what led me today, is to really be a serial entrepreneur. I have the fortune of working with state agencies and private foundations to create more of that work. And both now my agency and my share space are working kind of in tandem in this purpose work of creating space and creating more equity for us all. And that's what brings me here today, to be able to talk with you guys out of the many hours that I commit and work with my businesses.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Medina. Definitely have had my Power Breakfast events there, and it's a great space. First off, it's welcoming, and you have a great staff. I've worked with your team members. Everybody's very professional, responsive, and really try to make sure your experience is really great, whether you're doing an event or you're a member. So definitely, been great working with you guys. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Small Business Pro University. So just want to take a sec out to just introduce what the Small Business Pro University is. So we'll have a quick video, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk with Medina about a space of your own and what does that really mean. So tune in, and we'll be back 1 second.
Do you own your business, or does it own you? Is your business growing, and are you making enough money? As a business owner, there are so many things you need to know to become more successful. Hello, my name is Andrew Frazier, the Business Growth Pro and CFO. I created the Small Business Pro University for you. Small Business Pro University has self-paced, dynamic, multimedia learning experiences created by more than 20 instructors who are business owners just like you. Small Business Pro University will empower you to become a masterpreneur by learning the secrets to creating a successful enterprise, to go from working in your business to working on your business. Take advantage of our strategic coaching program or just simply choose the courses that you need. At www.sbprou.com, we will empower you to thrive and not just survive and make more money in any business environment.
Welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05 Talking Small Business. I'm here with Medina, and we're going to be talking to you on the topic of a space of your own. As a business owner and just in life, it's important to have your own space, where you're comfortable, where you are most productive, and where you can feel like and be yourself. You talked a little bit about equal space, but just tell us a little bit more about really, how you came upon it and, how you, created it so that it would be the space that you and other creative entrepreneurs would feel, empowered, comfortable, and really energized to do and be as successful as possible.
So I think that's a great question, Andrew. I think for many founders of color, we build our platforms and our solutions and our startups on pain points. And for me, that was very much a part of the narrative of the founding of Equal Space with my co-founder, Raphael Roman, was when we started our first business, not having access to capital, not being able to have an environment that affirmed us and our vision, even given our skill set and, given that we were experiencing traction in the market, I built Equal Space to be the space I wish I had had on the first for my first company, and that came with a myriad of solutions and ways that we built it from the floorboards up, we say. So Equal Space, we call it a share space. It's been that way since day zero, and that was because the belief was that co-working is transactional. And that's the other people in that space operate in that way, where you buy a seat, you have space, you get the square footage, you get a suite, an office to run your business out of. And there's a certain coldness to that that allows that, the members are operating in this space of abundance where they're moving forward. For small businesses that are led by people of color, I know firsthand that there is a need for community, a need for resource sharing, and also the need to learn on the fly and sometimes make mistakes that you hope will not lead to the downfall of your dream. Entrepreneurs of color bet very heavily on their dreams, and we don't have a friends and family round, so we don't have the opportunity to just seed out and ask friends and family for $250,000. So what does it look like then to have a space that you open up and walk into that is going to be the kind of place that you instantly feel affirmed and you feel like there's an abundance of access to either networks or to events, to capital, to even the hacks and the sharing of best practices. And that's what Equal Space does. From the moment you open there's we locally source as much as we can. We celebrate local bands and local music here in Newark. We have Newark artists on our walls. We greet you and welcome you the minute you walk through and want to find out all about you, even when you're just taking a tour. And this was all very intentional. And when you walk into the space, even the amount of access, you can start at one space just at a desk and grow through knowing who our network is, through us betting and banking on you and finding you what you need because we understand you, we are you. You're able to grow. And we've experienced that through the 6 years of operating in excellence. Many of the entrepreneurs and founders and consultants that call Equal Space their home have found success. We have nurtured and provided for outside of what is just best business practice, right? So through COVID, the team and I gathered ourselves and in 3 days turned all of our programming digital. We helmed everything from mental health space to how do you reaffirm and reallocate funds granted by a foundation or a grant body. Like as a not-for-profit, how would you report that? How do you communicate with them? We did programs on a job fair. We banded together with Newark Alliance to create an entire employment fair for the, the digital jobs that emerged because of the pandemic. This is just one of many instances where I feel like equal space comes through, even the way the space is built. So, we are content creators. You need to produce content. I think, Andrew, you know that better than anyone. And so we have a suite now of podcast studios. We have the ability to create multimedia content. We have an event space. We have a digital classroom that allows our consultants to, do small group classes. And now through the pandemic, we've been able to actually helm a very safe and highly, maintained space to keep everybody as protected as possible as they try to either rebuild or, look into themselves for the resiliency that we have to move their businesses forward. And we've realigned all of our programming to be in that vein. And so that's really, like, in a nutshell, I think, the founder story of Equal Space. And myself, I helm a lot of the vision work and the day-to-day in community. And my partner, Raphael Roman, helms the operations and the running of the space. We went from a small pop-up in, when we first started, because we're self-funded, right? So we were open, I think, 3 to 4 days a week. From pop-up, we went to, taking a real space. From taking that space, we took on more. And at every juncture of growth, many Black, brown founders, women founders find themselves reinvesting. And myself and my co-founder have always reinvested our funding back into Equal Space to grow it. So every floor, every room, every amenity that we have grown, including our Fit Space model, which is going to be launching shortly, which is an actual studio for our members for health and wellness, so that they can work and also, maintain a balance of what it is to maintain themselves, which I have struggled with. Every time we grow, every time we do something, it's due to the fact that we invest in ourselves, because if we don't, who will? And that's what it looks like. Day to day, I get to move and build with some amazing people. My team that makes this possible, Jonathan and Kelly, our Newark-based interns, we all make it happen because we're not just about the model, we're about the community. And that's Equal Space. That's Equal Space Newark campus.
Okay, no, that's great. Really creating that space like no other. Now, some people might say, hey, you're creating a space for diverse people. Isn't that a little bit anti everybody else? What would you have to say about that?
So not the first time. I think you and I have talked about this offline. For me, and I've gotten it, like, are you anti? No, being pro is not being anti anything. What I create, and very much, pulling from other amazing people in this landscape, is creating an equitable space. And equity is not giving someone an advantage over anyone. That actually wouldn't look like it. And that might be the misleading, misleading public side of it. Equity is creating a playing field that allows people to start at a level that is similar, if not, just for us to move forward. And the way that I always paint that landscape is myself walking into a space has access to less capital than my other counterparts. That is a fact. A matter of fact, I believe today, or this week, is women's wage, right? And Black women, I believe, earn 60 cents or so to their male counterparts. That is a lack of equity. And I'm paraphrasing that because I know it's like 60 something cents. So please, nobody, I am a feminist. Don't drag me through the mud. I'm trying to make sure I get it right. But the fact that is the same amount of work that a woman CEO will earn half, if not less than half, of a male CEO is not the creation of what we all want for what it is to put in this work, right? And so it's the same for business. Building my business is valued less than counterparts. All I'm asking for is for the communities I represent to have an equitable seat at moving their businesses forward. And that does not put anyone at a disadvantage. That just makes things level. And wouldn't that be a wonderful world to live in? And that's kind of the world that I know I built at Equal Space. So our 19,000 square feet operate that way, but the world at large does not. And until it does, I'll continue to be as vocal as I am and as pro and radically Black and brown and queer as I possibly can to help us, because we have an inalienable right to wealth build for ourselves and our communities. And by the way, Andrew, that when small businesses that are local are gainfully making their revenues, they substantially more so than corporations recommit, hire local, and reinvest those dollars back into the community. And that helps my neighborhood, helps my brother and my sister. And at the end of the day, I grew up with a very socially conscious household, and so that speaks to my heart as much as it speaks to my brain.
Okay, great. And that was just a question I had to ask for fun to see how you'd answer. But it's not like anybody can't be there. It's
Wow.
Is that the space for you? And can it be valuable for you? And you create it to be valuable based on certain characteristics, but that could be anyone.
100%. We don't say no one is, everyone is welcome. Actually, it's one of the things I think if you ask people about Equal Space and being the first co-working space in our city, what they will tell you is that everyone comes to the table at Equal Space. We've had wonderful summits and town halls, and we had a wonderful discussion about queer representation in media with IEMC, which is a media conglomerate for content producers of color. And everyone came to the table, and there was cross sections of everyone. We also have a wonderful relationship with our local government. So our mayor records his podcast, and a slew of different CEOs and local organizers come into our space. So that's why it's called Equal Space. We literally are the space you fill to move things forward. And so, I mean, come on through. I guarantee you will receive a warm reception regardless of any backgrounds, as long as you're for the people.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. And similarly, that's how the Power Breakfast came about. Almost 10 years, found that many business owners, especially diverse business owners, really had trouble connecting outside of their community and didn't have access to, best practices, other knowledge for various reasons. Sometimes just because they were, tentative, as well as, because, their business might not have fit with other organizations, or just because nobody knew they were there. And, I would make sure we'd have banks and chambers of commerce, Equal Space, and other organizations. So it was like a comfortable place to help people connect and build relationships to, help them be more successful. But, we had all kinds of people there, and all kinds of people got benefits. But we, especially designed it to make sure that business owners who may not have had access to resources can learn about them and have a better access. So, definitely commitment to helping entrepreneurs and business owners just have more of an opportunity to be their best. So excellent. So now, we've talked about many things through the years, but, one of the things that would be good to know is, you have employees. Sometimes it can be crazy for a business owner having employees, and, making sure that, they're professional, the job gets done well. Obviously you've been successful in that. So what do you do, and what is your practice as far as, helping to, create the environment, create what your employees need to be excited about what they do, to go above and beyond, and really understand how to, create really what Equal Space is all about?
So that is a particular question I think I get asked often, even so much so now that the generations in the job market are shifting, and how people engage their employers are different. I think the pandemic has shifted the value proposition and how and what our day-to-day work lives are going to look like for either the leads or for the employees themselves. And so for me, in starting Equal Space, I knew early on I wanted to bet on early and young talent that was, pursuing their passion, which happened to align with Equal Space's needs. So our core team, first and foremost, I think our first hire was community engagement, and our community engagement manager, Kelly Outing, is 100% invested in making sure that Equal Space is really reflecting the community we're a part of. And, people don't think of their companies that way, but I think about my teammates and I think about my company, that it really should be embedded in the fabric and, a woven element of the community, as opposed to just these are my services and this is what I offer. We need to listen as much as we do. And that's what's helped us to build year by year organically, is looking and hearing what our community needs. And then they take the services up and the revenue keeps moving in tandem with that. But it starts with empowering your teammates. So very early on, I knew community manager was going to be a very central part and a very strong piece. And it was actually our first hire coming out of being a pop-up. In that, and how were we going to be able to operate what we did have? The next really important element was our operations lead, which I'm very, very happy to say Jonathan Collins is our operations lead, and our space moves and our programming and our our goal setting and how we move towards that is really set by him. And he brings a very discerning eye to what are the actionable steps to move towards a goal. And I think that that's extremely important. Our team is small but mighty. The other portion of that is we have a wonderful ambassador program, and those are founders, entrepreneurs, and creatives that are talented and moving their projects forward, but really lack the fiscal capacity to be able to take on space of their own. And so in turn, they collaborate with us in their skill set to help Equal Space move forward. And so one of our ambassadors is the amazing creative Livingston Steele, who's working on his independent films. And at the same point, he's so committed to storytelling, he helps us evolve a lot of the video work that you see come out of Equal Space, capturing our programming, capturing the spirit of what makes us amazing. And so in offering what we operate in capacity, which is space, and providing him space to do his film premieres and actually film out of, we're in the backdrop of one of his amazing projects that he's working on, that allows us to have an additional kind of additional family to lean on for things like social media or video production, or content creation, or helping us with the physical space as well. 19,000 square feet is a lot to take care of. And the longevity of that has been a long-standing relationship. Our team has stayed really solid and true for several years now. And I think it's because as the head, I empower a very open dialogue with my teammates. I rarely use the word employees, and I'm oftentimes creating a very level playing field in the way that we make moves or the ideas that we present at the round table. Physically, most of our huddles happen around a round table because no one is more than anyone at the table. And by empowering and allowing them to feel the value of their contributions and to see them grow, really keeps them committed in a way that doesn't just personify itself in, a paycheck or a salary. Because at the end of the day, people want, especially younger generations, want the work they do to be impactful and purposeful. And you need to show them that daily, and you need to validate and value them. And I think that is not all gold is coin. Culture is extremely important. Allowing at Equal Space, we have a 4-day cycle of a work week. So everyone has a day a week that they are, I want to say pretty steadfastly off on. That allows them for flexibility for things that they do in their life, applying human terms and conditioning to people who are in the capacity to work for your vision, is hugely important in keeping them long term, because to keep them to the old tried and true homogenous way of thinking of employees, that's just gone. That's the way of the dodo. Today, 2021, you have to look at empowering your teammates through language, through culture, through financial capacity, and also through evaluation of the other things that they're passionate about, and helping empower that and helping support that will go a long way. And that's how we built the team at Equal Space. It's first and foremost the rhythm and formula of that really came out of my first business, because I knew from working in media how undervalued creatives were at that point, and how subjected to the whims of other departments. Even though we were integral in a lot of the deal making and a lot of the visuals. And so that was why I created my first business. I wanted to create a culture where I empowered my creatives and they felt valued and we were moving forward and they were front and center to clients. And then when I created Equal Space, I was like, oh, this makes all the sense in the world to bring this kind of vibe and culture into what Equal Space is and to bring others into it who are members of the space. We call them spacers. So our spacers feel that as well.
Okay, no, that's great. It seems like not only are you making a space of your own for for the other business owners, but you're doing that for your team as well. And, you mentioned the ambassador program, which is great. And, as a business owner, one of your goals is, you want customers, but you really want repeat customers. But the ultimate is raving fans who are ambassadors for your business, and you've been able to do that, which many businesses have not. So obviously you're doing something right, and you just shared some of the secret sauce. But we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that, because I think that that's key for business owners, and sometimes there's nuances to that. So just hearing that you need to do that's not enough. So really want to delve into the details of that a little bit more. But before we do that, those of you who may know my book, Running Your Small Business Like a Pro, I've actually recently launched the workbook, companion workbook that goes with it. And so if you have it, I'm just going to show you a little bit about what the book is, and then also the workbook. And then we'll come back to talk to Medina about, some of the things that really, little things that you have to do to really create the type of business environment that you really want to have. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
My first book is Running Your Small Business Like a Pro. And really, that took me 5 years to write. It was, your first book, as you know, is the hardest one.
Right, exactly. Let me take a.
But it really took the work of working with 500 plus business owners.
So 500, wow, that's great.
Looked at the patterns that I've seen and really broke down the things that they needed to know in terms of, how did they get where they are now? What's their most important job as a business owner? What is their greatest fear? And then, is it your employees, or are you crazy? Because, definitely managing people is a challenge for small businesses, and just, important things about financing and retirement, all those things that you need to know as a business owner, but where would you have learned them? Who's teaching you that? So many business owners don't know those things. The first book, people really liked and found it valuable, but to get more out of it, I put together a workbook.
Okay,
so,
nice, okay.
One of the things we talk about is your greatest fear as a business owner, which is numbers and analysis. So in the book, we talk about, your financials, your financial statements, what you should look for, but just reading about it versus doing exercises on it, that really helps you to understand it better. We also have the 60-second commercial format. And in here,
real good exercises,
you can create your own. So it allows you to really take what you read about and actually employ it for you and for your business.
Excellent.
Welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. This is your host, Andrew Frazier. I'm here with Medina, and we're talking small business. Tonight, we're talking about a space of your own. And really one of the things that, we've been talking about, Medina's been sharing, is leadership. The level of leadership that he uses to create a high performing organization where everybody can contribute at their best. And it's very difficult to do that, to understand how to do that and understand what it means. And, when I'm working with business owners, when you really break it down, it's about business culture, creating the business culture that you want to have. And many business owners just let a culture happen. But at the end of the day, one of your most important jobs as a business owner is to work to develop the culture that your business needs to have. So I'm sure that you had put some thought into that. And tell us a little bit about culture, what it means, how you figured out what the right culture is for your organization, and how you were able to build it.
Wow. So that was one of the first and foremost in our brain trust, even for the pop-up version of Equal Space, was how do we want it to feel when you open that door, or what is going to envelop you as you experience our services and our amenities. And for me, we did like a real like power word session on how we wanted to make ourselves feel. And we did so by also listing what the outside of our culture was going to look like. So if I predominantly serve founders of color, LGBTQ founders, women ventures, what is the world that the stark world that they're existing in? And how will Equal Space be a safe haven and an environment that creates affirming behavior? And for me, some of the words that came out were underbedded, what the landscape looked like. They were underbedded on. They were doubted at every turn. They had scarcity. They were told no over and over again. And still the resiliency of those communities is so profound that they still moved forward. And in many cases, still were winning, none more than Black women, right? Black women get what? 0.2% of venture funding, and yet yield 52 billion in profit, right? In spite of it, because of just the excellence in which Black women operate. You talk about the LGBTQ community grossly, fighting for civil rights to this day, and again underbedded and undervalued and invited to the table, and yet are a multi-trillion-dollar community. And so I found those words in the landscape that they exist. And so then I was like, how are we the antidote to that? What is our culture going to do without saying a word? And that's the thing I tell people. Culture is verbal and nonverbal cues. So when you open the space, we celebrate a wealth of cultures in Newark. Like we might have Portuguese pastries one moment, we might have local empanadas the next moment, we might have amazing pieces from the Yard, which is in Newark, amazing spot by Kai Campbell. Like we make sure, the very fiber of how you engage us is affirming. And so we always say, in a world of no, we're your yes. And so we want to hear your ideas, and we want to put energy into you, and give you your flowers, as we say, and show you examples of creatives and businesses that are doing so well and that are thriving through our partnerships, and through truth to power, you seeing other people right next to you who don't make you feel so crazy. And so even the team at Equal Space is out in those halls. You will always see me in the space. I always welcome people. We in the tours, we're all like, hey, how are you doing? My other company exists inside of that space. Our anchor tenants welcome and open their doors and want people to understand what it looks like. And that culture comes from seeing the examples. And so the founders, our doors are there and open, and I'm always waving at somebody, and part of a tour sometimes, and much to my team's laugh, I'm always asking them about themselves and what they're doing. So that's the culture. The culture starts at the head, but it has to be verbal and nonverbal cues, and you have to get your team invested, invited, and a part of that culture, because they help you build it. The culture is not built by just me. It's not me by saying we're going to be welcoming and inclusive. It's by Kelly saying this is how we're going to do that in our programming. It's in Star, who does our social media at Equal Space, saying I think this is the kind of language we should be using in the visuals. It's in having our ambassadors help us show the stories. It's in doing artist showcase like David Okendo, who's being shown on our third floor. His work is profound, and so we had a dialogue about it, and visibility for Latinx people in our city. It has to be in the action. The intention and what you write has to be in the everyday vernacular of yourself and onboarded and believed in by everyone on your team.
Okay. And, one thing that makes it really difficult, and just like branding, when you think about your brand, you don't create your brand. You can influence your brand, but you can't create your brand, because your brand, especially as a small business, is really what people say about you when you're not there. So
Every
you can't,
time.
yeah. So you can't control that, but you can do things to influence it in the way that you want it to be. So the same thing is true of your culture. You can't say, I want my culture to be this, but you can create behaviors around what you want your culture to be. And at the end of the day, the culture is really how we do things around here. So, when you bring on team members, you've planned, you've given thought to that. And so then when people come on board, they're indoctrinated into the culture. Whereas a lot of companies, you don't really have a culture plan. So people just come on, and the hard part is every person inherently changes your organization. So if you don't have a plan, they're going to just change it the way based on their experience, which may or may not be what you want the culture to be. So,
and it's important, right, Andrew? So like having that, like, don't relegate those to an HR consultant or an HR department. You have to be a part of that process, and it actually can't be towards the end. So I have found, and that's another part about team building, I have found that we have to have my co-founder and myself involved in step 1 and step 2 of that hiring practice, because we need to see if that energy and that belief is there in what we're trying to build, especially for Equal Space, because those dollars are precious, and a dollar at Equal Space has to go three times further. Those team members we're adding, even to the ambassador program, which is very competitive, it has to be intentional, and you have to like set that. And also, I don't walk into Equal Space meetings dragging my feet and not about our mission. Like, I actually don't care how tired I am. My team knows how about it I am. Like, I'm high energy. I'm laughing. I'm bringing, you bring treats, talk about it, bring in a new voice, empower your interns. We have an ambassador program and an intern program. Our interns are invited into our meetings, senior management or not, so that they can be like, well, what about this and what about that? Like, you empower young minds, but you also get new flavor. Don't be afraid of new, because that's going to happen. Like, I know so many small business owners who are running away from new, and I'm like, that's creating a very Jurassic mentality, and you will be outmoded very quickly with that mentality.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, definitely all that goes towards creating the culture that you have and creating a culture that you want. So, all those things are key. What are some things that you should be careful of when you're thinking about creating the right culture for your business?
So some of the things that I think people get carried away with is the more like fun aspects of like culture. It's the decor. It's the the events planning. It's the snack bar, which are great. Especially in my industry, the co-working industry. People are like the craft beer, which I could really be care less about, but in culture, the things you need to understand is don't let the fun get carried away from like the responsibility of the mission, because the culture should be in service to the mission. And so many times people get into the fun and start to stray far from their mission. For me, the mission is the first question I ask myself for any of the programming we do, to how we bring members on, to how we keep our our own internal and external guidelines strong. So at Equal Space, everyone signs in on a culture document. That document is probably the one that's on top of your welcoming of as becoming a spacer. And it talks about, the way we want to respect each other, the way we want to have ourselves presented, the way we want you to honor the space. The fact that this space is rare air that you're breathing because we are building something for a very disenfranchised and oftentimes left out, members of different communities. So like, don't allow your culture to be like what's draining your bottom line. Allowing it to be affirming and built within your mission allows you to build something that is additive and helps you move forward. There are many times that Equal Space has been chosen over a competitor because it was an undeniable aspect. Our culture was an undeniable aspect of what made our amenities and our space so great. And while we couldn't compete with, the shiny polish of Porsche, of a Porsche, we put so much care and so much time into what we have built that it's a part of the culture, but it's a big reason why people sign on the dotted line. So one of the pitfalls, I think people let the fun get away from their culture. Number two is they allow for toxic elements of their own personal agenda to seep into the business. And so that could be in a wealth of ways. I run an equity space. That does not mean I can see all avenues of what would make Equal Space the best, which is why we're always inviting different minds, voices, and experiences to come into the space, experience it, and provide us with candid feedback. We also have allowing for culture means you have to take some of the negative commentary along with the positive and differentiate between what serves you and what doesn't serve you. There are times when investors have been like, we love what your space is about. We want you to build multiple ones. But, we feel like the social impact part of your mission is just, a little bit, too heavy and could alienate other communities. And I, have to sit there and take that feedback of, okay, this is what they're perceiving. As the founder and the person who is the most vested in the culture, then I have to say, thank you so much, but we will pass, because our culture of inclusion is in service to the mission and in service to why people have chosen us this long and why we're as big as we are now. So just being cautious that your culture isn't being influenced by external toxic factors is another thing. But your culture should be in service of your mission and your bottom line, and should be a major reason why people are choosing your business and service line, not just a fluffy, wonderful thing to hang out with on a Friday night networking mixer.
Okay. No, definitely. That's great advice. I mean, definitely your mission is number one, because that's what people are buying into. You're the leader of your organization, just so people take their cues from you. It's not do what I say. They look at what you do, and what are you demonstrating? You can say whatever you want, but they're going to take away what you do, and and what they see, how they see you reacting to situations. So that's why we call the show Leadership Live, because you have to lead. Nobody's going to care more about your organization than you. Nobody's going to be as focused on it as you. If you're trying to have a culture of people coming on time to work and you don't come on time, what are you telling them? So, you have to demonstrate, you have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And
so true. And demonstrate. And the other part I've struggled with in that leadership capacity, which I love the title, always love the title of this show, is the fact that you have to do so with transparency. Because you cannot assume, especially me being an entrepreneur and this being my second company, I've learned that I cannot present that I have the answers to every single problem and equation. And there is a disingenuine feeling that exerts itself, and your team can always know that. There's no omnipotent, all-knowing person. I know what I know and I don't what I don't. Shifting that was a very big mountain for me to climb as a leader, because I think my being of color we're always told to be 3 times better and work harder. And, you have to have that polish, right? You have to have the smile, and that you have to look presentable. And this is what that looks like. And this is what the voice sounds like. And, it took a lot of deconstructing to understand that by being more vulnerable and transparent to my team about what I didn't know allowed us to address it so much better and allowed them to grow closer with me as a leader, because I was able to do so from a genuine place. But you are so right. I'm in my office. I'm online. My team knows I work out of my home office before I even get into my office. I'm extra communicative with them. I check in on them. I let them know at least 45 to an hour before I'm walking out. Hey, I'm going to anticipate leaving at this time. If there's anything that's really important, this would be the time. I tell them to harangue me and to remind me and to, come into my office and be a part of that. I go into their areas and I check on them. Those things have to happen in leadership. It is an active part, or you risk the actual thing of being the dreaded B word. I hate the word boss. I am not a boss. I'm a leader. I work alongside. I don't work ahead of, or, I don't work above anyone. So I'm quite comfortable being in front of the camera like I am now, and taking out the trash 5 seconds later. And neither of those jobs are less or more than what I'm worth.
Okay. No, that's great. You mentioned something about, your investor may not have had the same vision or mission as you. And, as a business owner, you have to know who you are and where you're going. And not everybody's going to agree with you. And even your culture. If your organization is inviting to everybody, then it's really inviting to nobody, because your culture should attract the people who you want to attract, but it should repel the people who you're not trying to attract. So if your culture is not doing that, then maybe your culture could use some work.
It's unique. It's unique. It's unique to you and how you want to conduct your particular services and or business in an industry. And you should want that to be unique. It is not a negative. I tell people equal space is not the choice for everyone, but for those that we are looking to be a part of and to empower, we are who we are, and we are their choice. And same goes for working in media. My particular strategic style does not work for everyone, but it works for the right ones that I'm trying to be in the room with.
So no, that's 100%. I don't know if you know the quote. Remember the quote from the Karate Kid, from Mr. Miyagi? He was like, if you on one side of the road, good. If you're on the other side of the road, okay. If you're in the middle, you get run over. So you have to choose where you're going to be. And if you don't choose, then, that's not a good situation to be in. So, we've covered a lot of stuff this evening, and, this is, really great to hang out with you. Even though it's an hour disappears extremely fast. So what I want to do is, we talked about having the power breakfast at Equal Space several times, and always a great host, a great place, great facilities. But for those of you who haven't been to the power breakfast, we're just going to give you a quick little taste from the video. And actually, we haven't been able to have the power breakfast live because of the pandemic, but if everything holds up, we're going to have our next one October 29th and bring it back. So this is what the power breakfast is all about. And as Medina said early, it's not boring. You've been to events that are boring. Definitely at the power breakfast, we keep it lively, interesting, opportunity to learn, make connections. Over the past 10 years, it's led to millions of dollars in economic opportunities as well as financing for attendees. So here's a little bit about the power breakfast. We're going to come back to Medina and we're going to close out. So he can tell you a little bit. What should you take away from today that you can use and put to work immediately within your business and to be able to become a better leader personally. So right after this video, we're going to come back and hear from Medina, and we'll close out, but thanks for joining us. So here we go. My name is Andrew Frazier from A&J Management. One of the things we're here to do is supercharge your day. What we do as part of our business, as an outgrowth of our business, is we have a series of brain trust initiatives that we're continuing to build on. And really through the brain trust initiatives, what we're doing is we're bringing a higher level of intellectual capital to bear. So we're bringing in resources, experts, expertise from across the country to share best practices and connect with business owners, entrepreneurs, organizational leaders to help you be more effective in what you do.
What I'm learning from Power Breakfast that sets it apart from other networking opportunities is how my local activities integrate and are part of the larger business community.
It brings together people of all industries who can share all different levels of expertise and can educate each other on different changing nature and evolving regulatory legal landscape, as well as all facets of all industries that they might not otherwise be privy to.
The Power Breakfast is so important for the entrepreneurial community because it gives the various business people who come together an opportunity to interact, discover what it is they can do to help each other and also do some business.
From a corporate perspective, Marcia McLennan, and or for that matter, Andrew and his business model, his branding, none of us can succeed individually. We need partnership. Collaboration is the new norm.
Since 2011, the Power Breakfast has been held in the northern New Jersey area, but over the next couple of years, we expect to expand into Pennsylvania and New York as well.
Welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. I'm here with Medina, where we've spent some time talking about a space of your own, and definitely learned some valuable things. But just to sum it up, taking away from our conversation, what do you think our business owners should focus on, and how can they incorporate what we talked about into their own business so they can be more successful?
So some of the takeaways I think on what we've spoken about that I would love for small business owners to take away is that creating a very clear vision of the culture they want their clients to experience, and the culture that they want their teammates to experience. So, it's a twofold kind of conversation. And that culture should be in service to the mission of your small business. By doing so, you're then allowing yourselves to operate from within and outside in that landscape that your competitors are working in a very different way. And that differentiator should then become your signature. And that signature should then become a very affirming reason and calling card for other companies' clients to take advantage of your services and offerings. I say that to you in a way that I've carved out my own first company, which is, very successful and has a wealth of clients. And we have done so with a minimal amount of external marketing because we have invested so heavily in what our differentiators are, showcasing them, being in culture when we speak about them. And, from that, developing a very wonderful, case study and storytelling ability. And that's the power of culture. That's the power of creating that space that is uniquely yours, because no one is you and no one will do it the way you do. And I think by taking that away, by taking the unique signature that you host and embedding it in the DNA of your business, it will allow you to be more successful. And at the end of the day, that is all I wish for you all, is that you are surging forward and operating in a wonderful cash positive situation, because no one creates a business to not wealth build. And there's no shyness in saying that. So I hope that these takeaways in this conversation has added that to your arsenal, and that you're moving forward stronger and more affirmed in how you move day to day.
Outstanding. So definitely some huge takeaways. Every business owner can take away some valuable things. This has been a great conversation this evening. I've even learned some things and can even better appreciate what you do and just the care that you take into creating a valuable experience to your customers, clients, but not only that, to your team, and incorporating that in and seeing how your vision shines through them. So thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. Love to have you on. Great comments, and thank everybody for tuning in. And we've got your LinkedIn as well as your company website in the chat, and he's easy to find. Equal Space does great activities and programs in the virtual as well as the live world, so check them out. And we'll have to have you on again. And looking forward to great things, continued growth, and very, very much. Thanks for doing what you do, and and joining us here tonight. So take care, and I'm going to close out real quick. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Another great show, and like others, we have great guests coming up next week as well, and an interesting topic. So next week we have James Coyle, president of the Gateway Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to talk about running a business within a business. Gateway Chamber is actually the largest chamber in the northern New Jersey, Newark City area in terms of members and member employees. So he's been able to do some really great things, and one of the strategies he's used to be able to do that is building businesses within the chamber, or really building chambers within the chamber as a way to really grow and expand and take advantage of the expertise within his organization. So not going to tell you too much more about that, but that's a strategy that you can use within your business to grow. So I think he'll be sharing some valuable things and ways that you can do it. So once again, next Tuesday, James Coyle, president of the Gateway Regional Chamber, and we're going to talk about running a business within a business. So thanks again for joining us this evening. Always value people tuning in, and definitely want to close out and just but before we do, always remember that the more you know, the faster you grow and the more successful you're going to be.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.